It says we're live. Oh.
Are we live?
We are.
All right, good to know. It's not showing up on my page.
Oh, that's it. That's all we're doing this week.
This is what we're doing this week. So I have to tell you, I am a hot mess today. Welcome to the drive. We are live. Brenda, you might have to take over. I can't, I'm not getting much of anything.
Okay. So welcome to this week's episode of The Drive. As you can see, we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Kat is having some issues with her service. So I'm thinking she's going to turn her camera off, which usually helps in Zoom when we have these issues. So this week, we told you guys just last night that we're going to have a few coaches on so that we can talk about exactly what it means to be a coach. Before we get into that, my name is Brenda Colter. I'm one of the managing partners of SYLC Consulting. That frozen in the corner there is Kat Hoyer. She's the other managing partner of SYLC Consulting.
I'm waving. You can't see me, but I'm waving.
No, but we can hear you now. So, Kat,
all right,
you want to kind of talk about why we decided to do this episode this week, and then we'll let Shelly and Scott introduce themselves.
Yeah, so after last week, we got a lot of great questions about, what is a coach? We get them a lot. Typically when, especially when I would introduce myself as a life coach, almost always people would say, I need a life coach. And then the next question is, what does a life coach do? But what we talked about after, we had gotten some of those questions is there's all types of different coaches. And the terminology coach is being thrown around a lot for different things, from health coach to, executive coach. And some people like the term, some people don't. Brenda knows I have a person that I admire a lot. And when I met him, the first words out of his mouth were, I hate life coaches. And I was like, great, it's awesome to meet you. So anyway, I don't know that I consider myself a life coach anymore, but we can talk about that a little bit more. But yeah, that's really why we decided to do it. We were getting a lot of questions and we wanted to talk to some people who are in different areas. We did have a couple of other people that were going to be here, and both, we lost one.
She'll be back.
Okay. You guys are so chill. I'm like, oh no, we lost someone. I love it. So yeah, that was really kind of why we decided to do it. Do you have anything to add to that, Brenda? You were part of those discussions and questions. Oh,
no, I agree. Like you said, it's kind of being thrown around a little bit. And we just kind of want to explain exactly what that means to us, get people from different areas of coaching and some of the greatest coaches that we know, and see exactly what our thoughts are, and hopefully shine a little bit of light on the thoughts and ideas of people out there about what coaching really is and what it's all about. Because clearly we have other people on because it's different things to different people. So we'll get started out with Scott. Would you like to introduce yourself this morning?
Sure. My name's Scott, and I live here in the Akron area, and many of you also know me as Hank from my WWE name. So from a coaching standpoint, I've got a wide variety and a background in terms of when you use that definition, coach. I have coached, I've coached soccer and basketball at both the high school and the middle school levels over the years. In addition to that, anytime that I think of someone as a mentor or as a manager or someone that's doing any kind of training, I think of them as a coach. So from that standpoint, I've trained many wedding DJs over the years. I've trained, a lot of different folks to be doing this sort of thing. One of the things I do is I run a social media consulting business as well, through the DJ company, actually, because they kind of coincide together. And in that, I'm spending a lot of time working with folks, trying to teach them how to do this sort of thing. How to use Instagram, how to use Facebook, how to use Twitter, how to use LinkedIn effectively. And on top of that, many of you know I run the 330 to Go Media Network. And it's constant learning curve in terms of teaching people how to do these sorts of events. And, how do you go live? How do you tell a story? How do you effectively communicate what it is that you're trying to get across? So, when I think of coach, for me, it's much more of a mentorship role where you're coming alongside somebody and kind of guiding them through the process with the end goal for them to stand on their own. And it's catch and release, right? So you let them go.
Right. I love that. That is awesome. How about you, Shelly? You want to introduce yourself and let us know your thoughts?
Yeah, my name is Shelly, and thanks for having me here. Brenda and Kat are two of my absolute favorite people. I'm actually from Springfield, Missouri, so I'm not part of the gang here in terms of where they live, but I'm actually not a coach, although I do plan on becoming certified Steer Your Life coaching. I see myself, my background's in social work. So I have a lot of educational training on getting people to talk and getting, things out of people. But I consider myself more of a connector. I connect people with other people and with resources and just with their own innate ability to get things done.
Good. I love that. Well, I think for me, I became a coach when I got my SYLC certification. And like you said, it started out with a long history of kind of being that go-to person, like people having questions and they're like, oh, well, you overcame this, you overcame that. How did you do it? And I was like, I think I want to teach people how to do what I did. And it started out with me just giving people advice. And I was like, I should probably be educated as I'm giving out advice to these people that I don't know very well. So that's when I went and kind of went through, got my SYLC certification. And I think I do still consider myself to be a coach and a mentor. But I do also think it goes a little bit beyond that. And I guess we'll get into it when we talk about, when we go into the first question a bit.
And I want to jump in a little bit on the coach versus consultant. That's something when we go through the STEER certification, we really dig into what's the difference between a coach, a consultant, and a counselor. And one of the things we talk about for us is that, as coaches, we identify the potholes in people's lives and teach them to steer around them. So if you know our program, that's, one of our fun puns. But where a counselor or a therapist will actually help you repair that pothole. We don't do that. We're not qualified to do that. We teach you to steer around it. But on the consultant side, I think it's important, and kind of like what Scott was talking about, where you are actually giving someone a skill versus just, it's a little bit more intense where your skill set is helping that person or company. So I do think that there's a difference between coaching, counseling, and consulting. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important to know that most of us know the difference between that and where we need to, what lane we need to be in, pun intended there too.
So
Am I still breaking up?
Scott went into this a little bit, but I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper into exactly what is a coach. Because even in this conversation, Kat kind of said, well, I don't consider myself to be a coach. And I'm like, well, I'm a coach-ish. And Shelly's like, well, I'm not a coach. And so what exactly, by definition, do each of you feel like, what does a coach do? What is a coach?
Historically, don't we start with you guys bringing out your definition like you do every week?
Do you know?
I watch you guys every week, and you always have a word, and you start with the definition. So what's up?
You know what? Thank you so much for it's so funny because when I heard Scott, like, well, I've kind of done I'm like, he's coached us on a couple of things as far as this goes. So let's see. I'm going to pull up the definition of coach and let's start there. That's a great place to start. Thanks,
I've got it, by the way.
Okay, go ahead.
It's a horse-drawn carriage, especially close.
Oh my God. I didn't know I was supposed to bring sound effects. Yeah, let me get my tablet. Where's my panel?
That one might be more of a buzzer. No, I'm kidding.
Right. So this one says, coaching is a form of development in which An experienced person called a coach supports a learner or a client in achieving a specific personal or professional goal by providing training and guidance. The learner is sometimes called a coachee.
I've never heard that.
Coachee.
Coachee.
I don't even think I like it.
Now it's interesting because if you really want to fracture that definition between consultant and coach, one of the things that I think applies to coach is they are actually a part of the team.
Mm.
So when you think of like no matter what team, no matter what organization you see or work with, you see a team picture, the coach is in that picture and the coach is off to the side. So you got, all the, whether it's an NFL team or whatever the team is, the coach is part of that team.
Right.
So I think that's a difference in terms of, if you want to get into the minutia of that definition. So instead of them being like an outside force, they're a part of that internal organization. So when I think of I'll use my profession as an example. When I think of these larger, bigger DJ companies, when you think of like a Rock the House or a Beach Boys, they're competitors of mine, but we're a mom and pop shop. So they have, 15, 20, 30, 40 DJs on staff. And at the top of that pyramid are the guys that are considered some of the best DJs in Cleveland or in Northeast Ohio. And they teach all those other DJs how to do their job. To me, that is more of the coach aspect because they're all on the same team. So they're giving that wisdom and they're giving that guidance and you want to talk about potholes, try DJing a wedding. Yeah. So they're giving that guidance to their internal team. So in essence, that knowledge is being preserved in the team as well.
That's a really good point.
It is a really good point because that's what I was going to say. Like a coach for me is like it's like a expert accountability partner. They don't only know what you're supposed to be doing, but they know how you're supposed to do it and why, even when you don't know. So there's that added component of expertise. So like you said, it's a member of your team. They're down for you to win. And like you said, they want you to fly because they want you to go. And so there's that component of being part of the same team, but having that expert advice above and beyond what the coachee might have and what you're trying to teach them and what they should be learning. So what do you think, Shelly?
I agree with both of you. And I was thinking about, as you were talking, I love that I never really had thought about coach as part of the team. I'm not really a sports kind of person, but I'm working with a coach right now. And one of the things that I really like about having a coach is they don't do the work for you, but they're teaching you, helping you along that journey, as Scott was sort of talking about. And then also I feel very accountable to her. I tell her every week, I don't want to disappoint you. So I feel like I need to get my work done because she's also working really hard, but I think a coach gets you to the point you want to be by letting you figure out part of that journey yourself. She doesn't tell you exactly what to do, or my coach doesn't tell me exactly what to do, but she helps steer me in that direction to where I find that ultimate decision or goal or whatever myself. And I do feel that a coach is a really good accountability partner as well.
And I think you brought up a really good point, Shelly, that that they let you be the driver. Again, pun sort of intended, but it works here. I mean, they really do let you be the driver of it. And it isn't them telling you what to do. It's them asking the right questions so that you can figure out what you need to do and why and how and all of those things. So I always like to say as a coach, I didn't have the answers, but I had the right questions.
Oh, that's good. I like that. And I think that was bred from that expertise aspect. Like, I know what to ask you, only you really know the answers.
Right. So I think the next one, so we've all had coaches in some way. So the next question was, what advice would you give to someone? Because that's what has come up this week. There have been a couple people that reached out. One person, it was for another person. And she said, I don't know if you're right for her. And I said, and I don't know if I am either. I'm not the right coach for everyone. So what advice would you guys give someone who's looking for a coach? What should they look for?
That's the first thing that I would have somebody look for in a coach: humility. The fact that I'm very leery when someone feels as though they can coach anybody about anything. The fact that you could kind of take a step back and go, you know what, let's have a consultation, let's have a conversation and see exactly how this works out to see if I'm a right fit for you, because I might not be a fit for you. I get a little bit leery when somebody will take any client without any real background or information.
I love that term. Go ahead, Shelley. Go ahead.
I have a lot of really strong opinions on this, but I think I see a lot of people that will say, for example, I lost 100 pounds. Now I'm going to coach you how to do that. And I know that they probably have some really good tips and techniques that worked for them. But, I colored my hair once. I'm not going to tell you and Kat and Scott, hey, come on over, I'll color your hair, because I did it once. And I'm not trying to be trite or flippant, but I think that if you're going to be a coach on something, especially something in particular, and you have done the work and you know what to do the work, get a little education behind that. I'm always leery of people that don't have any sort of background in what they want to coach beyond, I did it myself. I ran a half marathon once. I can't coach you to run a half marathon, because I don't have any of that, what I feel should be some sort of expertise behind that. So I'm always a little leery of people that do that. I'm always leery of people that want to charge me $1,000 an hour. I don't think anybody's worth $1,000 an hour. I'm sorry if that offends someone, but I just don't. And I'm also a little leery of coaches that just have these pages and pages and pages and pages of copy about how great they are. And I don't want to hear you talk about how great you are. I want to see how great you are, And so that's, that's pretty much my opinion on what I look for in a coach. I feel I'm pretty intuitive. So when I talk to someone the first time, I can tell if they're going to be right for me, if they're asking questions that pertain to my area specifically, and not giving me canned sort of, broad questions or ideas or things like that, that they've really taken the time to think about my particular issue and what I want to work with. So that's my 2 cents worth right there.
I like it. I'm going to give you $1.20 for it.
Okay, thanks. I can buy some more coffee.
I love how you said a good fit. So in the wedding industry, we're dealing with a lot of brides, and we're dealing with a lot of brides that are a lot younger than us. And it's one of those situations where, if you get, well, I don't know, I'm going to say this, I got these two ladies here. I was going to say, when you get married, you want to try it to be a one and done. I mean, that's the goal, right? So, right. So as I say that, I'm ducking right now. I'm ducking. When it's funny because
you're not going to DJ my next wedding.
Yeah, see, in the last couple of years, people have called and I say, well, how'd you hear about us? And they say, well, you DJ'd my first wedding. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, you know how we work then. But do I give frequent flyer mileage? So the point is then, one of the biggest things is when you call and when you have that initial correspondence with a bride, when I respond, I say, I'd like to talk to you to see if we're a good fit for each other. Mm-hmm. Because part of being a wedding vendor or any kind of vendor, and I'm assuming in any industry, is you are the expert in that field, and you're going to be coaching the client along the way with whatever it is that you're doing on your part. So, the first steps is you get them all set up with their paperwork in terms of how to plan the wedding day out and all that. And if you get on that initial call and you don't feel that they're coachable, or if they're like constantly questioning everything that you're saying, if there's that initial, for lack of a better term, lack of a click. Yeah. If there's no click, then don't, as Shelley said, don't force it.
Mhm.
Margaret, thank you so much for getting a hold of us. But after we had this discussion, you got a bunch of things that you want to do, and it just doesn't fit like what I normally do. And usually I can adjust all that, but you're not even willing to listen. And I'm assuming that applies to all industries, right?
Mhm.
You have to be able to have a personality that is going to mesh and work with the people. And if it doesn't, don't get involved, because the worst thing you could do is get down that tunnel and
Right.
then have it just blow up.
Right. And for several different reasons, if you know in that first call or that upon that first contact that you two just don't click and you try to force it, you run the risk of looking like you're not a great coach. Because like you said, some people can make it very difficult for you to do your job and they just aren't coachable. I had to learn that doesn't say anything about me as a coach just because a person and I don't click. I've had a consultations where I was like, honey, you don't need a life coach. You need a straight jacket. No, I'm just kidding. That was a really horrible, awful joke. But because I felt like that, I've been in situations to where I wasn't coachable. I was way too far gone, and there was other work that I needed to do before I was ready. Because being coached requires you to do a lot of work, and you have to be prepared to do that work. And if you aren't, it's just not going to work. And I'm like, I don't want anybody to feel a way about me, like I'm not doing my work properly because they won't allow me to. And I don't want them to walk away feeling like they didn't get their money's worth, because that is the worst feeling in the world, to go to a coach and to feel like you want some sort of help and to walk away going, okay, that didn't work.
Well, and that's
I'm
one of the,
so I,
go ahead.
oh, I'm so glad you said that, Brenda, because I think that's really important before you even start working with anybody. And hey, I used to plan weddings at a bed and breakfast, so I feel you, Scott. But you as a person who's looking for a coach, you have got to have that mindset and make that decision that you actually, first of all, want to be coached, and that you're going to do the work, because you're wasting everybody's time otherwise.
Well,
As I've been there, done that, people.
yeah, and it's one of those things. As a coach, you have to also be willing to accept that they could potentially fail, and
Ooh.
especially if they aren't willing to listen. I can't tell you how many times, whatever the industry over the last 10, 15 years or whatever, where you say, okay, you need to do this, and this, and then they do this and this, and they don't do this, and this, and then it doesn't work, and then they're like,
You suck as a coach. You didn't do what you were supposed to do.
It's not working. It's not working. And you're like, well, you didn't do what I asked, not told. You didn't do what I asked you to do.
Right.
And it's all about that persistence and that follow through. And if that doesn't happen by the coachee, I've never used that term in my life.
That's a horrible term. I cannot stand it, but now I'm going to use it.
Yeah. If it doesn't happen, if they don't follow through, then it's a perceived failure on your end. Like, how many times do these NFL and college football coaches get fired all the time because their teams are 5-7, but who knows if the kids are doing what they are being coached to do.
Right. Kat, I feel like we're dominating you here, and then you.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I'm just listening, and I think for me, what advice I would give someone to look for in a coach, and I would say this is from some lessons learned, it would be to really find someone who asks you the right questions as well, to get to know what it is you're looking for.
Yes.
Because I've found that I've had coaches that are like, do it my way, do it the way I've done it, do it, step by step, or even just trying to duplicate themselves. And I think a good coach helps you find what works for you. And I've had amazing coaches as well. Huge shout out to Eric Tivers, ADHD Rewired. But he was one who was always like, take this assignment, make it your own. If it works exactly the way I laid it out, great. But if you need to tweak it a little bit, that's awesome too. So it was a lot of that discovery and trial and error and all of those types of things. So, in our coaching practice, we're very, very careful not to tell people what to do. We give them the how on some things, but they have to figure out, for themselves. And again, it's about asking the right questions.
That is true. I want to jump into the comments here really quick because I haven't been paying them any attention. Diana said, great to connect. Sorry I couldn't join you all. It's okay, Diana. Please feel better. I hope you feel better. She said, yes, I agree. Mentor or coach should have a discovery conversation with the person to make sure that there is synergy. I love that word, synergy. As a coach, he or she needs to make sure that the person is their most valuable audience and open to receive the guidance. Exactly. That's exactly what we're saying.
Kat, you said the F word. Fail. So that's, I think, a significant aspect of the coaching concept. You have to realize that people are going to fail.
Mhm.
And then from a coaching standpoint, how do you teach them or guide them from that failure?
Mm.
You know, so many times, we used to teach, I was running floor care divisions for Family Dollar and Dollar General throughout the whole Northeast United States. And we would teach so many different crews on how to do certain things. And we would say, if you do this, this is what will happen. If you do this, this is what will happen. If you do this. And they have to have that bad thing happen
Mhm.
for them to learn. Love you, honey. Bye. They have to have that bad thing happen.
Bye, Kate.
They have to have that bad thing happen to learn from that experience. You know, so many times you see, especially like, again, I'll relate to sports. When you have that failure, those are the coachable or teachable moments.
Yeah, and it's teaching, that's teaching resiliency and everything that comes along with it. So I think the other thing, when you said you use the F word and you said the fail thing, the other thing I thought of was fly. It's not a 4-letter word, but it is an F word. And I've even noticed coaches who, when their client outgrows them, to me, that's, I've been successful. When I'm working with a client and they no longer need to work with me, that is success for me. So that's the other thing that I would look for, is someone who really does want you to succeed. And when you succeed, you know, they are excited about that and not,
That's
not
being haters.
Well, from a social media consulting
it got
standpoint,
really quiet.
from a social media consulting standpoint, that's the gig. Your job and your goal is to teach them those skills so that they eventually say, thank you for running my stuff. I can do it now. I don't need you anymore.
Right. And I think that, just like you said from the very beginning, and like Kat saying, ultimately for any form of coaching, you want to see that person, especially if you're doing it for the love of it and to truly help people. You want to see them succeed beyond you, even if that's moving to another coach that's at the next level, or whatever the next specialty that it is that they need to work on, because maybe you didn't specialize in additional work that they need to do. Then that's perfectly fine, as long as they learned what they were supposed to learn while they were with you, and they feel like it's been a successful, mutually beneficial arrangement, and they're moving on happily and not walking away feeling like they've been had.
And I think what I'm hearing, even as we're talking about all this, is, and it's circles all the way back down to the very first thing you said, Brenda, is humility. When a coach doesn't have their ego in the game, then it's a much better partnership, because it really has nothing to do with them.
That is true. And I think we probably touched on it a little bit, but there's probably some more specifics we could go deep into. But the last question that we had was, what is a sign of a coach that someone may want to steer clear of? And again, I'm going to copy off Kat here. That was, of course, a pun intended. What kind of a coach do we think people need to steer away from? Or just one trait in a coach that you think if you see it, maybe they should walk away?
I have an opinion on that, of course. I had a coach in the past, and we touched on this earlier, that it was a very cookie cutter way of work. So, you know, you have these formulas, which I think are great, that are tried and true, but there was no steering away from it. So I think, you know, we have touched on this, that if you get a coach and this formula isn't working, you should be allowed, and the coach should coach you through the process of figuring out your own way to do that. So I would say cookie cutter coaches, I don't think really are, you need to rethink that.
I think that's good. Kat, Scott,
I got nothing.
nothing.
I mean, I can't say any better than Shelly just did. I mean,
Scott's done said all he's got to say.
yeah, it's
what?
what? Yeah,
I don't know, Scott, but
It's never going to be true.
I would think lack of flexibility.
Right.
You know, and again, I'll use a sports reference. Right now, Coach Harbaugh is being lauded for redesigning the entire Baltimore Ravens offensive scheme to handle to work with the skill set of Lamar Jackson. So, Lamar Jackson is having an MVP type year this year, and he's the kind of quarterback that doesn't always necessarily translate to the NFL. But Harbaugh has redesigned everything about everything they do on offense. And as a result, they're 11-2 or 10-2 right now and leading the NFL. And that's the whole thought process is where, okay, I'm going to coach you. You don't necessarily fit with what I've done in the past, but I'm going to change my way of coaching.
Yes.
To help you.
I love that.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the Baltimore whoever, but I love that.
Yes,
that is fantastic.
Yeah, and that's the sign of the good coach. So I would think the opposite, that lack of flexibility, would be the sign of a bad coach or someone to steer clear from.
For me, I think I don't know if this is necessarily signs of a bad coach, but I do think it's a definite red flag. It concerns me when, so I've had coaches who have, I've completed a program and they've upsold me into a program that they happen to have that still aligns with what I'm doing. I think you have to be careful if a coach tries to upsell you into something that you don't necessarily need. And I think it maybe happens a little bit more in business coaching than personal life coaching. But if I don't need this service, don't try to upsell me to it. And not only that, but if it's clear that we maybe didn't mesh well, or this wasn't a mutually beneficial arrangement, don't try to upsell me at all. And I don't necessarily see it as a failure, but it definitely wasn't as successful as either of us would have liked. So I don't necessarily feel it necessary for us to continue to work together in the future on another level. I think at some point it just becomes a little bit tasteless. And that's just me personally. Kat?
Yeah, no, I think it really, I've led into it before I meant to. I always answer questions before we get to them. And it was to me, it's the whole, I think you can kind of sense it when it's an ego-driven person. And that, to me, that's the number one thing that I look for, that I want to steer away from. And I think because it has, because sometimes that ego is actually what sort of draws you to people. But yeah.
Because I think that ego
is humility.
Oops, I'm sorry. I think that
or steer away from ego.
I think that the ego comes off as confidence at first, and that's something that's endearing. We go, oh, this person's really confident. They're going to be really helpful, and that is great, and that's awesome. But there's a fine line between ego and confidence, and sometimes, unfortunately, you don't learn it until it's too late. And Shelly, our other Shelly, said, coaches with huge egos, it's their way or no way. Everyone is different. We all need to have customized programs. And I couldn't agree more. It's like, I understand having that foundation, but still understanding your client is key, like we've kind of said throughout this.
I laughed when you guys initially invited me to do this because I thought we were all going to pile into one car together.
Oh, that would have been great.
That would have been really cool.
Good. We need to do that.
Could you?
We'll take a road trip down to Missouri.
Oh gosh, we really would do that. That we keep talking about doing that with Shelly. We really need to do that.
Come on down. I got a spare bedroom.
So you guys have pretty much given your expertise. So where can people find you if they want to reach out to you? We'll start with Scott. I'm only starting with the way you guys are on my screen. So if you're wondering why I keep going to you first, that's why.
All right. So you can find me on Facebook or on The Knot. So if you're looking for us as a DJ business with me and the wife, it's His and Hers Wedding and Party Service. We're highly ranked on the Not. In fact, yay, we just won Best of Weddings for 2020 for the DJ stuff in the area. So yay for that. And on Facebook, you can find us. Yeah, you can find us on Facebook, and as far as the media network, the 3302 Go Media Network is literally it's Akron's hottest and fastest growing show and media network, and you ladies are a part of that, and we're so excited with what's happening. So just reach out to us, and we'll be happy to work with you.
Awesome. Shelly?
Well, you can find me on Facebook and Women Over 50, A Life Redesigned. It's a private Facebook group, and there's, I think, 870 women in there right now, but you don't have to be 50. You can be 50-ish or close to 50.
I'm in there.
Turn 50 because Brenda's in there. And it's not your typical over 50 group. We don't have bad memes and any drama in there. So it's full of support and resources.
I think it's funny. You said something the other day that you don't talk about. You said it was menopause. There were three things, I think. Menopause was one of them.
I don't talk about menopause, makeup, or fitness.
Right.
I don't do makeup tutorials. So come over and join us. I also have a podcast by the same name, Women Over 50, A Life Redesigned. And I'm going to do a shameless plug here. I have a YouTube channel as well, and you'll find Brenda and Kat on there a few times. I want 100 subscribers because I want that vanity URL.
Yes.
So come on over and join us on the YouTube. Just Google Women Over 50, A Life Redesigned.
Just a sneaky tidbit, another shameless plug for us and Shelly. We'll actually be steering something with Shelly in her group this week. So everybody who's been curious about steer and exactly what that is, if you hurry up and join the group before Sunday, then you can get a live kind of steering session inside the group. So make sure you join.
Why did I volunteer to do that?
It'll be great. I'm telling you, it's gonna be so much fun. I'm so excited.
What fun for you. I'm the one that's got to bare my soul to the world.
Oh yeah, there is that. No.
that is great.
We can delete it if it's too bad, right?
It'll be fun.
I think we talked about it, and Shelly knows it's going to help a lot of people. There are a lot of people that are, just struggling with different issues, and I think a lot of times we think we're alone in these issues. So it's always nice to have a Me Too moment it's not only me moment.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Good.
Do you want to tell them where they can find us, Kat? Because Lord knows they can't find us apart. They always got to find us together.
I know. Well, you can find us at SYLC Consulting.com. The Drive, of course, here, and let's see, we're on Facebook, YouTube. That's kind of it right now for our show, but of course we're on all the other platforms. But follow us individually too, because we've got some, especially Brenda right now has got some fun tidbits. I've been keeping my tidbits to myself, but I'll be sharing them soon.
And we want the vanity URL on YouTube too, so join us. Although I clearly need to work with Scott on maybe setting up some kind of schedule to get our videos uploaded properly, because that's my responsibility and I have not done that. And now that I've said it out loud, I'm going to make myself accountable and get those videos up there and updated.
Everyone has just become Brenda's accountability coach.
Don't inbox me. No, I'm just kidding. But no, as always, you can find us every week here at 9:00 on the Drive. Inbox us if you have any questions, any ideas, or if you want to reach out to any of these coaches that have been on the show or have any questions for them, they've told you where to reach them, and we'll also put their information in the description of today's episode. So thank you very much. We will see you all next week. Same Facebook channel, same Facebook time. Kat hates it when I do that, but that's when we'll be here. Talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Bye.
Good job, ladies.
Yeah.